Well, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, that lucky bastard's got himself a 69 Honda CB450 K2. G'day world, Craig from Vinegar Hydroblasting. I've had this bike probably 15 years, I suppose now. I did a slight restoration on it back then, but it's in need of some loving. I'll show you what's wrong. People are always asking me, can you blast wheels as a complete unit? I generally tell them no, I don't do that, because this is what happens here. You blast any coating that's on the spokes, it goes, and they look really pretty when they're done, and a few months, 6 months later, they turn to shit. So I just don't do them. You're better off stripping them down and blasting the parts separately. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to pull these spokes out. I'm going to drop the front wheel out. I'm going to delace it, pull that tyre off as well, and I'm going to blast the crap out of those spokes and zinc plate them and put it all back together again. First thing I better do is put a jack under it and pull that front wheel out and put it up on the bench and see what we're playing with. Well, I've got the wheel off the bike, I've pulled the tyre and the tube off. That'd have to be the worst job in motorcycling, stripping tyres. But that hub's pretty good. I polished that years ago, so I'm not going to blast that. I'll probably just give it a touch up with some polish. As you can see, those spokes are rusted. There's still parts of the old plating on those. I'm going to try and do my best with the water blaster to get rid of all that. If not, I might have to dry blast them as well. The chrome on this 53-year-old rim's pretty good. It's obviously got some pitting and stuff in it, but we're going to reuse that. We'll just shine it up. I'm thinking with all this shit in here, I'll probably hydroblast that, mask it up, hydroblast it, and then put some zinc paint or something on it before I reassemble the wheel, but we'll tackle that a bit later on. Now we'll go about stripping this wheel down, and for all you fraidycats out there, lacing wheels is a pretty easy job. You've got inner and outer spokes. You put all the inside ones in first, take a photo of it before you strip it, and just look at the photo when you're putting it back together. Well, there's the wheel up on the bench. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to spray all the threads and nipples with WD-40. Now, I'm not getting sponsored by WD-40, but if you own the company, yell out. I'll quite happily promote your stuff. So we'll go about spraying all these, and then we'll use our trusty little spoke spanner here, and we'll start undoing those as gently as we possibly can. And we'll give the tops of them a go as well. Hey, and while we're on the subject of shamelessly promoting products, a few people have told me that YouTube is sticking ads on some of my videos. Now, I'm getting nothing from that because I haven't got 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to stick it up YouTube, hit that subscribe button down there somewhere so that they have to give me some of that money and don't get to keep it all for themselves. Okay, first things first, I'm just going to go around this rim on this side and crack all these spokes, just to crack the threads. They're all moving quite nicely, those. Then we'll flip it over and we'll do the same on the other side, and then we'll go about unscrewing them. Probably do that using a screwdriver from inside the rim. Try not to do this with a camera in your hand, folks, because if you drop these little bastards and they go under the bench, they're a bitch to find. But anyway, I'll keep going and we'll pull that hub out and go from there. Yep, there it is down there. Did what I told you not to do. That's all the nipples in that little container there. Hopefully there's 40 of them. So now we just pop these spokes out of here and wobble this around, and there you go. Look at that. Now we're all scared, aren't we? We'll pull all those spokes out and we'll sort them out. Well, as luck would have it, I have 20 outside spokes and 20 inside spokes. Now you might say, what's the difference? These outside spokes have a right angle bend on them there, whereas you can see these inside spokes the bend isn't quite as sharp and it's definitely not at right angles. Well, I've had a bit of a think about a plan of attack on redoing this wheel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up and I'm going to stick it in the hydroblaster and blast that rust off, then give it a coat of zinc paint and set it aside so it gives the paint plenty of time to dry before I start playing around with it. Here it is all taped up. I've just used duct tape to run around there. Duct tape's as cheap as shit, and the hydroblasting process won't blast that off. And I've also run just a run around the inside covering those nipple holes. I don't want any glass blasting through the holes and impacting somewhere on the other side. Not likely to happen, but just a bit anal when it comes to that sort of stuff. Okay, we'll chuck this in the cabinet and give the inside of it a blast now. There it is inside the cabinet, ready to go. We'll give that a hit with full pressure and see what we can do with that rust removal. Well, here's a look at the rim. That's out of the blasting machine. It's got rid of most of that surface rust and stuff. There's still a bit there, but it's now good enough to paint. So what I'm going to do before I paint it is I'll pull all this tape off, and I'm going to set my machine at a very low pressure, and I'm going to just run over that chrome work, and if my pressure's right, low enough, the beads will roll across the surface of that chrome and won't dull it off at all, but will take off any shitty surface rust type stuff. So we'll pull that tape off, chuck it in the machine, and then we'll pull it out and look at painting it. Well, that's the rim there after it's had a wash. I washed that at 55 pound, which is hardly any air pressure at all going through the machine that I use. We'll tape this bit up now, and then we'll get the can of paint out and give it a bit of rust protection. And there it is all taped up, ready to paint. We'll whip that outside and splash a bit of paint on it. And this is what we're going to use to seal it up. Okay, we'll leave that outside now to dry in the sun, and we'll move on to the next bit. Okay, it's time to move on to these spokes. What I'll do first is I'll wash one in the blasting cabinet and do the best I can and try and get all that coating off, and then we'll dip it in some acid and see if it bubbles away where the coating is. If it does, I haven't done it well enough. We'll do one and see how it comes out. There's a look at the spoke out of the hydroblasting machine. I dipped that in the acid pickle and it had a nice even fizz on it, so I've got rid of all the previous plating. And you're probably thinking, what a tight ass, why didn't he just buy new spokes? But these are Honda spokes. I don't know whether you can see it. Right there is a change in size of the spokes. Mr. Honda in his wisdom did that, and if you buy these new, they're still available, but you might have to sell your firstborn child. Anyhow, we'll clean up 10 of those spokes, and then we'll chuck them in the zinc plating bath, and while they're plating, I'll clean up another 10. Okay folks, there's a look at 40 spokes and 40 nipples with a nice bright zinc coating on them. Before I chuck them in the wheel, this hub, I'm going to just mask this area up so that I don't damage it in the blasting machine, and I'm going to give that surface in there a blast and bring it back to nice shiny bare metal. And this one I'll probably just rub a bit of metal polish on that, or I might run it on my wheel and clean it up. And while I've got it in bits, I'll get a bit of car polish and give this rim a quick going over, and that'll help protect it from pitting and rusting further down the track. So anyway, I won't bore you with that. I'll get into it and give you a look at it when it's done, and then we'll start assembling the wheel. There's the hub and the rim there, folks. Now it's time to start putting some spokes in. And if you only take one thing from this video, you put the inside spokes in first on both sides. If you work your way around the rim doing insides and outsides, you're going to put 36 spokes in there, get to the last 4, and then pull 36 spokes out again. So these ones here with the lesser angle, maybe 75 degrees, not 90, they're the inside spokes. So righto, we'll start chucking a few of those in. Now on old hubs, there's usually a bit of a telltale sign as to which way the spokes were going. If you can look here at these outer spokes, there's a little impression in the aluminium there that said those were going that way, so the inside spokes will go that way, and it'll be the opposite on the other side. But anyway, we'll start slipping a few spokes in and give you a look at it as we go. Well, there's the first spoke sitting in the hole. Now, as you can see, the outside spokes went that way, this one goes this way, and on the rims, all these drilled holes face in a certain direction. So as you can see, that one faces back towards the hub that way, towards the outside, so it's a spoke for this side to here. And yeah, as you can see down here, the other ones point towards the other side, so you can't really muck them up. Okay, what I've done here is I've put a few spokes in, 3 or 4, and put the nipples on loosely. Then I went round and I've put the rest of the spokes in, and I've faced them all in the direction that they're supposed to be going. And I've been around, and all the spokes on this side that go that way are sitting on top of the spokes on the other side that go the other way, except that one, we'll put that back. But if you work this pattern here, you can't really go wrong. And what we'll do now is we'll go and thread some nipples onto each of those spokes, put them in the right holes of course, and we'll only screw the nipples on lightly for a start, so you can still see a fair bit of thread hanging out of that one, and then we'll put the outer spokes on. Well, there's the wheel there with the hub in the guts of it, with all the inner spokes on. As you can see, it's a bit of it's a bit loose at the moment, but that makes it easy to put the outer spokes on. Gives you a bit of room to manoeuvre. So we'll chuck some outer spokes on it now, and then we'll look at tightening it up a bit. Okay, it's time to put all the outer spokes on now. They just poke up from underneath through there, and if you're lucky, you don't drop it. But as you can see, there's the mark there on the hub. So that one goes that way, and we'll go in that hole there, and that's pointing towards that spoke, so that's in the right spot. We'll go through, we'll put some nipples on, and work our way around the wheel. Well, that's got every spoke on this side of the wheel in place. What we'll do now is we'll spin it over, and we'll do the outer spokes on this side. Honestly, if you follow this process and you do all the inners first, you can't really fuck it up. That's got all the spokes back in the wheel. As you can see, it's a bit loose still. So what we're going to do now is we'll go through and we'll nip those spokes up, and we'll probably leave 2 or 3 threads showing out the end of each nipple, and then we'll check it again and we'll look at putting it in the truing stand. You can do that on the bike if you want, but I've actually got a truing stand, so I'll use that. Okay, we'll tighten those up now. There we are. I've been through and nipped up all those nipples and left a few threads sticking out at the end of the nipple, and as you can see, most of those spokes are still fairly loose. So what I'll do now is I'll go through and I'll pull the thread up till it just starts to disappear into the nipple, and then we'll mount it up in the frame. Well, there's the wheel mounted up on the wheel truing stand. I made that. They're pretty easy to make. You can look online and see these anywhere. We'll give that a spin. I've already spun it. It's not bad for up and down, but I got probably 8mm, 5/16 of an inch side to side movement in that. And if you can see under there, what do we got? There's probably only 1mm or 2 up and down movement, so we might tackle some of that side by side movement. Now I'm just using an old surface gauge here that I made. If you're using something like this, or an indicator of any description with a steel point, I always just chuck a bit of tape or a bit of tube on that, because when you spin it round, you don't want a sharp point running on your chrome work or your aluminium. So yeah, a bit of tape's just as easy. I've just measured that. At its worst, I've got 7mm of side to side movement. So what I'll do is I'll pick a side on this side. That's about its worst point there. I'm going to want to pull the rim this way. So I'm going to tighten up 3 spokes, this one, and this one. Only do half a turn, and then we'll spin it again, have a look. It's probably hit about 1 million potholes, this rim, in its 50 odd years. So It's impossible to get them spot on, but we'll get it as good as we can and have a look. So about there, I'll nip up 1, 2, 3. Still heaps to go there, but it's just a little bit at a time. And when I'm pulling the thing this way, as the spokes get tighter, I'm probably going to have to loosen them off on this side. You can see those spokes are still fairly loose. We will muck about, or we will muck up the up and down movement in this, but we'll just get rid of a bit of that side to side movement, and then we'll just have a look at the up and down side of things. But it's just slow and steady at this stage, so I'll keep going and come back in a minute. Well, I've just whipped around that wheel a couple of times and just pulled up a few spokes, half a turn at a time. As you can see, that gap here is a lot further from the rim. So what we'll do is we'll adjust our indicator. We'll find a spot where it's close. We'll put that on the rim there, and we'll just measure that gap at its widest now and see what a couple of turns of the wheel and a couple of turns of a few spokes has done. We'll pick a spot here. That's now down to 5 mil. So same deal. We've got a wide spot here, so we want to pull the rim this way. I'll pull up this one, and this one, half a turn, and we'll give it another couple of spins. Well, I've done probably another dozen spokes on that. Give it a couple of spins. As you can see, that gap there is now getting a lot smaller, so we'll wind that in and we'll measure it again. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. I'll just check that. That's down to about 2 millimeters at the moment. So same again, we'll pull 3 spokes in here. We'll find a low spot here, and we'll pull 3 spokes that way. We're probably only going to do quarter of a turn at a time at the moment on those spokes, but all right, so there's a high spot there. You've got to use a fairly snug fitting spoke spanner when you're doing this, because the last thing you want to do is round these nipples off or tear off your chrome plating. Look, that one's loose. I can still do that up with the fingers, so I'll just pull it tight and give that one half a turn. We'll give it another spin. Right, about here we'll pull these 3 spokes up. Now these ones are starting to get a bit tight, so we might have to loosen the ones off on the opposite side, but we'll just see how we go. We'll pull 3 up on this side. That's loose, so we'll do it up by hand. Give that a bit of a nip up so it's a bit tighter. That one's fairly tight, so quarter of a turn. That one's loose, we'll give that half a turn. And spin it again. It's getting better and better. So we'll just reset our surface indicator on a high spot there. And I'm down to about 1 millimeter at that stage. Still not good enough for me, but yeah, you'll never get these old rims perfect. So we'll close that up a bit more. Well, there we are after a little bit of tweaking. I don't know whether you can see the gap there, but that's running pretty true. I wouldn't have more than 1/10 thou run out side to side on that. So we'll set that stand up now and have a look at the up and down run out and adjust that if necessary. Well, I've probably got 1 millimeter of up and down there. So what we'll do is we'll find the spot that's closest, which is there, about there. So I'll just nip up 3 spokes either side of that high spot and see if we can pull it in a bit. There we go, it's a little bit better. There's another high spot there. Same deal, 3 spokes either side of that. And give it another spin. Might just adjust our height gauge a bit now, we'll find a high spot. There's one there. We'll just pull those spokes up a fraction. Well, I don't know whether you can see that, but that's got the up and down movement pretty damn close. There's a little bit of a high spot where there's a welded seam in the rim, but apart from that, the up and down movement's in the right spot. So we'll just change our surface gauge and check our side to side and make any final adjustments to that before we tighten all the spokes up. Well, we have pulled our side to side out a little bit. There's a bit of a gap there, so what I'll do, I need to pull it this way. I'll loosen 2 spokes, quarter of a turn on this side, and pull up 2 spokes on this side, and check it again. It's just a matter of going slow. Well, I've just given that a tweak in 2 spots, and that's as close as fuck is to swearing. So we'll just check our up and down again and make sure that stayed the same, and then we'll go about tightening the spokes. Well, it comes to tightening these things now. If this was a 36 spoke wheel, we'd start at the valve hole and do every 3rd spoke for 1 revolution, then move along the spoke, every 3rd spoke, same again, 1 revolution, every 3rd spoke. And but this is a 40 spoke wheel, so I've got no idea on the formula of that, so I'm just going to do every 2nd one. I'm going to start at the valve, work my way around every 2nd spoke. Well, I've done 1 lap there, so I'll do the same on the other side. Just check that side to side movement again, that hasn't changed. All those spokes are tight. You can probably hear a bit of a noise there. Those bearings are a bit grumbly, so I'll replace those bearings before I put the wheel back in the bike. Yeah, we'll just give it a bit of a tune test, make sure they all sound pretty much the same. Yeah baby, that looks alright. Well, there you go, viewers, that's how I do it anyway. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but it works for me. And as I said, it's not that hard, and there's nothing more satisfying than when someone says to you, who cleaned up and relaced your wheels and that, you say, I did that, and they look at you as though you're some sort of genius. But yeah, as I said, it's not that hard. You've just got to spend a little bit of time. Righto, I'll change those bearings out, clean up the brake hub, and put the tyre back on that and put it back in the bike. And yeah, thanks for watching. And if you like the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button if you feel inclined. So until next time, bye for now.